Right. We are here for our Wednesday night session, our not so micro lecture. And tonight we are talking about point of view and anthropomorphism. So let's jump into this. I will admit from the onset here that anthropomorphism is confusing to my brain. So I get it if it's confusing to your brain. Some people are really good at it. Others of us struggle a little bit. Um, so if you struggle, don't worry. I will tell you that there are the true academic thought is that anthropomorphism is not allowed. But just like other words and phrases in society that are then adopted at some point by Webster's and they now appear in the dictionary, APA, so our Holy Grail, is loosening up a little on anthropomorphism. So I will show you their kind of current status on that as well. But let's talk about this. So this was a note to myself. Okay, sorry. I looked at this 10,000 times today. You think I would have seen this slide? Sorry about that. So using the lit review process that we just did, I said we would talk about this a little bit. I just never put my slide in here. I have multiple versions of this. I'm thinking maybe I didn't open the right one, but we're going to go with it. So I did say this a little bit in the announcement that your work from weeks 1 through 4 can help you to now walk through that entire process for weeks 5 and 6. If you want to spend the time building out your annotated bibliography, that's totally up to you. That can be very helpful for some people not so much. Doing an outline can be really helpful. Again, for some people, not so much. So which pieces you choose to use or not use is totally up to you. You're not submitting anything except the final product. What I would tell you to do is review your feedback again. Now that you've come through the entire process, go back to week 1, look at the feedback on the annotations and see, okay, now this makes more sense that I've come full circle. Same thing on the outline. Okay, now I get the whole stacked headings thing, or I'm not supposed to be using, Roman numerals to in my heading section headings, things like so. Some of the things that in the moment or in the week may not have been totally clear and made too much sense. As you've now finished the process, you may go back and be like, oh yeah, okay, now I totally get how this all fits together. And then certainly the feedback from weeks 3 and 4 will really just help you to build a stronger final product for weeks 5 and 6. All right. So when we talk about point of view, this is where you'll hear me say, okay, only use third person. APA does permit first and I think second person. I know they permit first, but this is one of those local rules that in our doctoral programs, we do not use first and second person voice. So we're always using third person. Some of you, this is an easy check the box. Yep, got it. No big deal. Others of you, it's a little bit more difficult. In fact, I have an advisee that I just finished reading their chapter 2, and there was a lot of first and second person language. I'm like, here we are. So just if it doesn't come naturally to you to be using third person language, do, one of those checks that I've talked about where you're visually checking or just looking for certain words. You can also do the search and find in Word, right? So you can do a search for I, we, me, my, whatever, any of the words right here. That would make sense in first and second person. If any of these words appear in your search, you want to go and reword. The he, she thing, this could be if you're referring to an author from a previous study, something to that effect. Under APA, it is acceptable to use their as singular. So, sometimes you don't know. Smith et al. Okay, female, male, he, she, who knows? You can put their, and that's fine. Even if you do know, if you want to use their, that's fine. But he, she, or their would be fine. And then it and they. Try not to use it in your sentences because what's the it? always then go back and reference what the it is. So for instance, if you say, um, you know, laissez-faire leadership style is, one of the main leadership styles. And then the next sentence starts with, it is when leaders do this, or are passive and don't do anything, right? Try to avoid that it. Always go back to what it is you're talking about. You don't have to say laissez-faire leadership style 10,000 times in a row, but you want to find a way to put wording in where you're not saying it. Something else I noticed in a lot of the reviews from the past few weeks, you'll have a paragraph and then you're kind of alluding to, or you're talking about something, but then in the next paragraph, you're alluding to what you just talked about in the previous paragraph. Don't start a new paragraph with the assumption that the reader knows we're taking it from the previous paragraph. Always restate what that is. What are we talking about? Don't leave it dependent on the reader to go back to that paragraph and be like, oh, wait, what was that we were trying to connect here? Make those connections for the reader. Typically, we don't even use a lot of he, she, they, and their either. What the third person is really going to look like is naming the item. So again, in place of it. So the results will show X, Y, and Z, as opposed to my results will show X, Y, and Z. So just always keeping in mind, when in doubt, use third person. Might be able to do an example of that too. Somebody remind me when we get to examples to try that, try the point of view out as well. Does anybody have any questions on this? Okay, this is pretty basic. It's just sometimes it's hard when you're in the moment writing to make sure you have the right point of view. Can't get to my next slide. There we go. All right. So now anthropomorphism, and what is it that we're talking about? So in academic context, because again, if this was a fiction writing class, heck, we might want to use a lot of anthropomorphism. That might be wonderful, but that's not where we are. So in an academic context, in referring to academic writing, so the definition of it, you can see here. So it's when you basically assign human characteristics or traits or emotions to a non-human entity. When, like the pictures I had on the first slide, a dog and a sloth, that's easy to see, right? Like we're assigning human qualities to an animal, which also can be debatable, but if it was like a talking pencil, something like that, we get something like that. But when it's so obvious, like, okay, a pencil doesn't talk and dance, but here we have a talking, dancing pencil. Excellent. But when it's embedded in our work, because we're not talking about dancing pencils and talking dogs, it gets a little bit more difficult to realize that it's there. So, okay, the importance of avoiding anthropomorphism is to make sure really the clarity is there. Objectivity, clarity, you can say precision, that these elements are present, and anthropomorphism tends to muddy the waters, at least in theory. So examples of anthropomorphism. This is not our example piece. We're gonna use AI to look at some. So incorrect. The study argues the reason for that is because, like the dancing pencil and the talking dog, the study cannot argue. The study is not human, therefore it cannot do something that humans do, like argue. However, you can say the data, no, sorry, I'm jumping ahead, jumping down. The study's findings indicate. So that's a better way to say it, to avoid anthropomorphism. You can see the difference. In the first one, the study is doing something. Think of the dancing pencil. It's doing something, it's arguing. In the second one, the study is not doing anything. You could make the argument that, well, now the findings are doing something, but the findings, it's okay that they're indicating something. And this is where my brain goes haywire because, again, it's hard to decipher that difference between the study argues and the findings are indicating. How can findings indicate? But indicating is not an actual action. It can be implied or seen through something, and that's where the findings can indicate. Again, I don't make these rules. I'm just trying to help you to understand them a little better. The data suggests, now this one is a little bit gray, in my opinion, because data, when you look at data, you can infer something from data. So the data suggests, in my opinion, is a little bit borderline. However, the data analysis reveals is better because data technically can't say, here's what I see, here's this, it's suggesting this, but a data analysis or data even can reveal something because it's like indicate, it's implied through what you can see, therefore the revelation comes through looking at the data analysis. If your brain is turning all around in your head, I'm sorry. All right, so effects of anthropomorphism in academic writing. So negative effects, again, we know loss of clarity, misinterpretation of the research process. Anthropomorphic, the experiment decided, again, we know an experiment cannot make a decision, therefore it can't. The experiment's results show or indicate or whatever, that's okay. All right, so the University of Arizona has this page that is helpful. I have to tell it we're not a robot. Okay, so it has some good information in it, and it does give examples here. Also, how to avoid it. If you look, so anthropomorphism can show up differently in your writing. It can show up like this. So they give us some examples. The article from Lassiter and Jones discussed how coffee wakes you up in the morning. Okay, so this is saying the article discussed. It doesn't say Lassiter and Jones discussed because that would be okay. Janelle, I'll come to you in 1 minute. I assume everybody can see this on the screen, right? Just give me like a head nod if you can
No,
see.
that's what I wanted to say.
That's what you were going to say. Okay, as soon as you said that, I thought, okay, maybe not. Okay, I don't know why. Let me stop sharing for a minute. Thank you for letting me know that quickly. Let's go back to this. All right, can you guys see this Arizona page, the blue box in the middle?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so going back to this one, the article from Lassiter and Jones discussed how coffee wakes you up. Again, it's not Lassiter and Jones saying this, we're saying the articles discussed this. So one way to change it is Lassiter and Jones discussed, because they are the authors, they are human, therefore they can discuss. The article from Lassiter and Jones includes information on how coffee wakes you up in the morning. So these are two ways to change it where you're saying the same exact thing, but now you're avoiding anthropomorphism. There's another example here. The experiment attempted to investigate how students learn APA style. Well, we know an experiment cannot attempt or investigate, so therefore it doesn't work. Wheatley attempted to investigate. So now we're putting the author in the seat for the actual verb, and we know the author can attempt to investigate. So Wheatley attempted to investigate. The experiment was an attempt to investigate how students learn APA style. So as soon as you hear it and see it, it becomes obvious. Like, oh, that makes so much more sense. I get it. But when you're doing your own writing, you can see when you look at that, it's like, oh my gosh, it can be overwhelming which things can do which verbs and which things can't do which verbs. So let's look at one more here. Okay, a review of the literature concluded that there is a gap in the research on this topic. Yeah, again, a review of the literature, the review can't conclude. I concluded that there is a gap in this research topic. Okay, a review of the literature indicates that there is a gap in this research topic. So, all right, let's go back to the slides. Now I have lost. Don't know how to get back. Here we go. Okay, so let's take a look here. And we're going to go over to Word. So something that I tried with a student today for the first time, is this here. So we had this sentence, and you can see by using this design, everybody can see the Word document, right? I'm going to go with yes, unless someone tells me otherwise. All right, so by using this design, thank you, Josh. By using this design, the study can determine whether perceptions of gender-based gaps align with existing data on gender representation in executive leadership positions. So the problem here is the study can determine, because we know a study cannot determine on its own anything. So what can we do with that? So today, this is what I did. I used AI in a responsible manner, and I said, please reword this sentence to avoid anthropomorphism. And then I put the sentence in, and let's see if it does the same thing it did today. It gave us 3 options today. Okay, so you could reword the sentence to say, oh, interesting, it didn't give us, oh, wait, maybe it did. No, it didn't. Using this research design allows for an an examination of whether perceptions, blah, blah, blah. So you can do that. If you'd like additional alternatives, formal, concise phrasing, I can provide those too. Yes, so make more concise, use passive voice, use formal academic tone. Let's try this. See what it gives us. Okay, so utilizing this research design enables an examination to the extent to which perceptions, blah, blah, blah. Let's see if we can make it more concise. Okay, so this research design facilitates examining the alignment between perceptions of gender-based. I actually don't like the ones it's giving me, but you can see using Copilot or any AI to help you rephrase to avoid anthropomorphism, in my opinion, is a legal and valid use of AI. You may take this out and say, okay, I'm going to use this one, but I don't really love all the wording, so I'm going to put it here and then reword it a little bit to make it sound more like something I would say, or just not sound so like it does here. Let's try this one. So obviously the problem in this sentence is the study examines, because we know studies cannot examine anything. So let's try this. See what it comes up with. All right, so this research investigates differences between employees' perceptions. Now, again, can research investigate? But that's what research is. It's an investigation. So that one I'm actually not totally clear on, and we know we can't always completely trust AI. So not positive here. Let's say try again. Try again. Let's see what we get. Okay, the research focuses on identifying differences between employees' perceptions and published data on gender gaps in healthcare networks, as well as differences between leaders and non-leaders. Like this one, to me, sounds human and sounds like it's written in a way that I can understand it when I read it. And it avoids anthropomorphism. So one of the things you could do, you can have Copilot check your work for anthropomorphism. So let's see. I don't use the one in Word very often. So let's see if it will do this. Please check this Word document for let's just see what it does. I don't know if I have to tell it like to highlight, to tell me, to show me. Let's see what it's going to do. Okay, so here's the text you shared. Yep, which are these sentences. Okay, issue. Okay, so it is pointing it out. So if you have the Johnson and Wales Microsoft Office suite, I believe it's the same one that we have for students, is what faculty have. So you don't have to copy and paste everything in. If you're working on a personal computer where you might have different Microsoft accounts, you want to make sure at the top that this is under your Johnson and Wales account. And once you make sure of that, Copilot is on the home screen. And so you would just click it here. If you can't find it, you can always do a search for it, but Copilot should be on your home screen. And then you can have it look for things in your Word document. And again, we're not asking Copilot to write the content for us, but to help us identify anthropomorphism would be a really helpful use. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing and just check if there's any questions from anyone who's on tonight.
I just have an observation. Thanks for sharing that information. But a lot of times when we read articles, I know for myself, there's use of contractions. And like you said, I don't want to butcher up the word anthro, but there are uses of that. And it's just, I know that we're going the proper way of writing our own literature, but I'm just discovering that I do come across things of that nature, and when I read other people's work.
That's a great point, Akeem, and you absolutely will come across those unfortunate items or errors or issues. So a couple of things. Not all journals follow APA, right? So there's Chicago style, there's AP, there's probably a handful, really, of different styles. To my knowledge, I don't know that any of them actually permit contractions, but they might. In addition to following a specific style, some journals or all journals have a style guide, and they might have local rules like we do for the DBA that counter something in the style. So maybe they permit contractions. I will tell you that is a big deal in academic writing for APA. Absolutely no contractions. So if you're somebody who uses a lot of them, try to get that under control now. As far as anthropomorphism, I forgot to bring up the APA site, so I'm glad you just said that. Yes, you will see, in my opinion, a lot of anthropomorphism in articles that are published. So let's take a look. And I told you APA has been updating. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So if you look in your APA manual, the 7th edition, these are the two examples that it gives you. Unfortunately, we are not working in science labs. We don't have rats and mice. And again, this is one of those animal things. Okay, we understand, like we can look at this and get it. So rat pairs as opposed to rat couples, because coupling is a human verb. So rats can't couple, but they can pair. Now, again, can we make the argument that some animals do mate with the same person, have the same mate for life? Yeah, so I don't know where that goes. But this is a sentence you will almost never, I can guarantee you will almost, I feel like 99% I can guarantee you will not have this in anything you write, because this is not the kind of work we do. The theory addresses, this is something you might have. The theory concludes. Okay, so it can address, but it can't conclude. Again, if you're like me, you're going, okay, but how am I supposed to know what it can and can't do? Some people's brains, they just know. My husband and I have this conversation all the time. When I told him this is what we were covering tonight, he is good at this. He just gets it. He knows which nouns can do which verbs and which can't. Me, I'm not there. So, Akeem, this is the new list of acceptable anthropomorphism according to APA. Now, it's very short, but it's phrases like this. The biggest one on here you can see in this section I address. All right, well, we don't allow first person, so that's out. This section addresses. That's one that previously, we might not have allowed. The paper focuses on, in this paper I focus on, we wouldn't use. The results suggest, the study found. This is probably the biggest one that we see from students all the time. If you're going to say this, an easy way to avoid this one is just put the authors, like they did in the example on the webpage I showed you. So Lassiter and Jones found blah, blah, blah. And that takes away the anthropomorphism very easily for something like that. However, you can see that it is now acceptable under APA. So different professors are going to push back at different levels in terms of your usage of anthropomorphism. But I wanted you to be aware of it because you're going to continue to see, no, it can't do this. And sometimes the feedback might not be clear, like, no, it can't. No, it can't. What can't? For example, in the student's work I was talking about earlier, she received some feedback from the committee and it literally said like, no, it can't. So she changed the sentence because she wasn't really clear on what the no, it can't meant. And she still had anthropomorphism. So hopefully this just shows you a little bit more, in terms of what's out there. Will you see things that we don't allow in published articles? Yes, you will. But we want to keep you on the right track academically, for academic writing and for APA styles. And then again, some of those things are nuances, but everything we're talking about today is not a DBA nuance. It is APA. Anything from anybody else on anthropomorphism or point of view? Ashley.
It's actually a assignment. Is
Okay,
that
yeah,
correct?
I'll go to that in 1 second. Is there anything on anthropomorphism or point of view? Okay, let me go see if Our You Learned opened. Nope, still spinning. All right, let me see if I can get it open so we can check on the assignments. Maybe if I didn't have 75 tabs open. Although, see if we can, I don't think that's the issue because, all right. I don't know that I can get, yeah, okay, here we go. So give me 1 second. We are in spring of 26. Ashley, week 5.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Oh,
so
wait, can you guys see? You guys can't see. Let me share. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get everybody on the same page. And here we go. All right, everybody can see that, I think. So go ahead.
in the literature review, for the literature review, you said that for the second research question, we could make it industry specific. Are we able to do that for any of the other questions? Because I'm finding that, like I was looking up articles last night for the first one, job satisfaction. It seems all the articles are tailored to specific industries. It's not like a generalized impact of job satisfaction.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I haven't responded to your email yet that you sent me last night. Yeah, absolutely. You can tweak these. You should still be looking at job satisfaction in some manner, but yes, you can tweak them, all the questions to better fit your professional situation, your research interest, whichever.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have questions on the assignments? Okay, I'm going to stop recording. So if you're watching this, thank you. And